Welcome to the Spiritual Geek Podcast, Wisdom for Modern Times, where we focus on living with intention to consciously create a life you love and celebrate. I'm your host, Sheila Franzen, and I'm so excited to share another episode with you. Today, Kimberley Roles has joined me for a discussion about creating your own reality, one of my favorite topics. Kimberley is known for her dynamic storytelling, sense of humor, and her no BS approach to spirituality and change work. She's a certified yoga and meditation facilitator, spiritual teacher and mentor, and workshop presenter. She brings down-to-earth approach to spiritual concepts that can be powerfully applied in people's personal lives and businesses. She's a law of attraction coach, a writer, energy healer, and an EFT, emotional freedom technique facilitator. She leads by example and shows you that you can do deep, life-changing, healing work while still laughing and having fun, reminding people that transformation is an inside job. She's a guide, teacher, coach for you, but someone who woke up, did the work, still does the work, and remembered that we came here to create our own reality, and would love to remind you that you are a creator of your own life. So welcome, Kimberley. It's great to have you here. Is there anything else you would like to share as part of your introduction?
Well, it is great to be here with you again and with your listeners, and I thank you for having me. That was a lot that explains exactly who I am and what I do. However, I can't tell you that I just was born and just realized, oh, I create my own reality. It often takes, I would say, something that triggers something in your life to make you realize that something's not right. There's more to this. We didn't come here to just wake up every day and have breakfast, right? Go to work, come home, take a shower, whatever, eat, go to bed, wake up, go to work. So in my case, I had a child when I was a teenager, and that is exactly what happened to me. My life was robotic. I did what I had to do to get by. Still, it wasn't until my 30s when my mom passed away. Well, that was probably the trigger. Actually, it was the trigger that brought me to where I am, to realize that I can change things. We were born for more. It's our birthright to have, more than this 3D reality that we wake up to every day. I know that's a lot. I know. So what happened for me was when my mom passed, like you said, I started before I became a yoga teacher. I started taking yoga and meditation because I had never done this before in my life. And it was actually a psychologist that referred me to it, because this talking to a psychologist just was not helping me move on with my life. Just repeating things that were wrong with me over and over and over just seemed to just keep them alive. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't helping me. And I flat out told him that. I'm like, no offense, because I liked the guy, but I'm like, this is not helping me, coming here and paying you week after week to just keep, reiterating the same thing, and the things that you're telling me to try, or the medication that you're giving me, is just not working for me. So he actually was the one who said, have you ever tried meditation or yoga? And I'm like, no, what are you talking about? Like, how's that going to help me? Well, needless to say, it sure did. They say when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And right. I
love that.
Right. Like, I had never heard that before, but when I went to my first yoga class and became a member of my yoga studio, these people came out of the woodwork. And it started for me all with a reading with a medium. I had never had a reading before. I can't say I didn't believe in psychics and mediums, but I was brought up in the church. We were taught it was the work of the devil. My mom that I knew of never believed in any of that or would allow me to do any of that. But I was committed to finding out if my mom was really there. I needed to hear from her. I needed to know what was true and what wasn't. And I found a website called ofspirit.com. And it was basically this guy who just does readings. He pays for or gets free readings probably at this point from any psychic or medium in the world. And he lists like who's good, who's not, who told the truth, who did. I mean, so you get a vibe for who you want to work with based on his stories and his experiences. And I narrowed it down to two. And one was in Texas and one was a nun in England. And I'm like, I was so not awake at the time that I did not understand how a psychic was going to get in touch with my mom over the phone. Like, you know what I mean?
How's that
like,
work? Right.
Like, how can you not be sitting in front of me and like touching my hands or like a piece of
something,
jewelry or something?
Yeah.
Right. So, and needless to say, I went with the Texas woman. So, like, she's a little closer than England. Okay.
Oh, that's awesome.
So this woman, she started this whole path, but I'll tell you this, she told me things so this was, this was 14 years ago. There was no way in hell. Now, Google wasn't what it is today, and you couldn't get as much, as much information. Right. But she was telling, she was singing church songs that my mom was singing because she was in the choir. She knew my mom's name began with a D. She didn't know anything about me but my name and my phone number. She became sort of a mentor to me. She and I had follow-up readings. I even had a reading for my dad I paid for so that he could kind of understand, because my dad was going through stuff too. I have a brother and two sisters, but my dad was more open than anyone. And he had a reading with this woman. And I never saw the man cry in my life. Mm-hmm. And needless to say, like I said to you, she was in Texas. I'm in Rhode Island, by the way. And I was at a point in my life where I was like really depressed. I hated my job. I didn't have a mom. I was a mom myself and kind of leaned on her to help me raise my son in a lot of regards. I spoke to someone, not a psychic, sort of I guess what we would call these days a life coach, but I didn't even know what life coaches were back then. And, and like literally all this stuff, it's amazing. So she advised me to go on a trip she's like, you need to go away by yourself. And I'm like, what? You want me to fly and go and stay somewhere by myself? Like, I won't even go to eat by myself, go see a movie by myself. You want me to get on a plane and go like live somewhere by myself? And it was the best thing I ever did. This is what happened. I chose a place. I love the beach. I chose a place in Florida because I figured, okay, it's still on the East Coast. It's only like maybe a 3-hour flight. I found a house on Vrbo at the time. They didn't have the Airbnb back then, on Vrbo. And lo and behold, I did not have a car rental, anything. I was just literally in this little house across the street from the beach. I went for a walk, walked by a bookstore. I'll say the SH word. Yeah, that. I was walking by this bookstore and there was a flyer in the window with the woman who I had the psychic reading in Texas with her picture and her name. Yes, Sheila, I swear. She was here it was an area of south of Tampa. She was going to be in this bookstore signing a book. I had never experienced anything like this, so I can't even explain to you. Like, I'm feeling like my whole body vibrate right now as I'm telling you this and reliving it, because I couldn't believe it would be true. I'm like, you're in Texas. What do you mean? This can't be happening. But it was, and I met her. And needless to say, that was 14 years ago. I still am in touch with this woman. I had flown back and forth a few times since then to visit with her, who introduced me to other people, who introduced me to, she was like, I think you're ready for, Abraham Hicks. Hello, Abraham Hicks, Wayne Dyer. She thought I was ready to start on this journey to realize that I didn't have to stay stuck in this situation that I was in and stay in this depression and stay in this job and she's like, just listen to it, just read it and see what you get from it. And then there was the book, The Secret. The doors just kept opening. And then I met a woman who did Reiki. I never heard of Reiki. I mean, the doors just kept opening and opening. So I think that's what happens when you are ready, when your soul, when your spirit knows that it's not really of this 3D reality, that you're more than just this body. This stuff just comes to you. It just happens, and the right people come along, and the right books and the right video, like whatever, the right people just come along. It usually it shakes everything up in your world, and you don't know what's going on. And sometimes I know that you're going to wish maybe you didn't wake up to this reality, because as your vibration rises, you're no longer the match of some of your friends or people that you've been friends with for years, and you don't have the same things in common anymore. And you lose friends, and you might lose boyfriends or lovers, girlfriends, and you don't have someone to talk to and walk through with this newfound sense of life that you have. But one of the quickest and biggest struggles that I have, or that people have when trying to manifest, I think, is they teach you so nonchalantly in these books like The Secret, to just that what we want in our reality is going to happen if we just like ask, and we visualize, and we ask for the universe to bring it to us, and we put it on a board. And I think there's a lot that was left out of that. And I kind of learned along the way that you can't, we pray for things, and then we get mad when they don't show up, because we expect them to come in a certain time, in a certain way. I mean, going back to even before my experiences, just wanting someone to ask me to go to prom, praying to God every night, let this guy ask me out, let him ask me to go to prom. You know what I mean? And just thinking that it was just going to happen. And sometimes it does, but to learn to let go, to learn to trust, to give up, to surrender, to learn that the universe and source can bring things in even better than what we're asking for, if we can just let it go and trust that we're being taken care of, that there are things that we're trying to bring into our life that they see a bigger picture, and maybe later on we find out why that didn't happen. I guess my point is that I just don't want people to waste years of their life getting to the point where they want to be now learning how to work with the law of attraction, and spending all these years not knowing the right ways to do it. So I guess I
think that's just it. In some ways, there is no right way, right? You have to find the way that works for you. And I do love what you've mentioned around. I think it's just a good reminder. I was actually thinking a lot about this recently in a conversation with one of my daughters, where she had mentioned teacher versus student, and that aspect of it's, where's the responsibility lie? Well, the responsibility, just as we're going to talk about creating our own reality, it lies with the student, not with the teacher, right? And so the teacher has a responsibility, of course, to share information and do so in integrity, and whether that's in an academic world or a spiritual world, or wherever you're learning. But it's really up to the student to take the ownership in what they're learning and how they use it and what they do with it. And so I just love that you mentioned that one beautiful little phrase, right? When the student's ready, the teacher will appear.
Yeah.
So that's the beginning of that manifestation. So when we talk about creating our own reality, you've kind of shared your awakening story, which I love. I just think it's beautiful when we get to hear each other's stories around how we woke up, right? How did we come to this realization that we're the ones responsible for what's going on in our world? And you mentioned quite a few things in kind of that journey for you, but do you recall the moment where you were like, I created all of this, I'm responsible for fixing it and changing it? Do you remember when that was?
I can tell you, I don't know if I'm assuming people who are listening to your podcast have some sense of we're on a spiritual podcast. So they must have some sense of that there is more than just what we wake up and see and do every day. So I would say that what did it for me was the phrase, speaking of phrases, the quote, energy flows where attention goes. Right? Everything is energy. Everything's a frequency. Everything's vibrating at a frequency, and you can change it just by changing your thoughts. And I would say that this is now not maybe who I would go to, but this was the thing that cracked me open, was Esther Hicks, channeling Abraham Hicks. I could not get enough. If anyone hasn't listened, and I don't know, maybe you're way above this and maybe you have never heard of, but this was my first, I never knew what channeling was. I never knew that you could channel beings. I did, Sheila, back then I didn't even understand. I mean, like I said, I went to church and I believed in God and angels and the saints and the archangels. And, I knew that our soul went somewhere. But like I said, I needed that reading to prove to me that that really was true. But I would say that after listening and re-listening to and writing, I have a suit. I know you can't see, but I have a suitcase full of journals of things that I would just listen to Abraham Hicks. And literally you could just type in YouTube, Abraham Hicks, and then type in what your problem was. And boom, they would bring up an episode of exactly what you needed to hear. And everything that was being channeled was exactly what I needed to hear. And it brought so many aha moments. Like the moment I would say I was dealing with two things, I think, at once. I mean, I wasn't happy. Honestly, I was not happy at this time in my life. I hated my job, and I was only doing it because I needed a job when I had my son. I needed a job that made me money, that paid my bills, that brought me health insurance because my son didn't have health insurance. And then I kind of got stuck in that job because that was what I knew. And I was also lonely. I also wanted a boyfriend. And I would say that finding out that positive thoughts activate the world around you. What you put out positive brings you back positive results. Everything vibrates. Everything is energy. You are energy. Your thoughts and feelings are energy. You attract whatever you set your energy to. That was the law that put me in control of my life, of changing everything, of setting my vibration to match the vibration of what I want. I was able, go ahead.
Yeah. So, that ownership of, one, recognizing that energy creates everything, and then, but owning it, right? Like for me, it's the aspect of it's 100% personal responsibility. And when you start to live your life from that, then it just becomes, what are the tools? What are the beliefs? Where am I resisting something? But it all comes back to knowing that we create, I think so. What I'm like getting right now is this, trying to differentiate the aspect of, there's the concept of, we create our reality, and we really can attract things into our world, right? We literally, energy creates our reality. And then there's the aspect of choice that becomes what we're choosing, but also the aspect of choice that lets us perceive our reality in a different way. So I remember when I first started learning about this concept of, creating our own reality and The Secret, what the bleep do we know? One of my earliest, like, I look back in my life and I can remember, even as a basketball player in high school, I would sit and visualize every play that was everything we had ever learned before every game. Wow. So that when I got into the game, I would know where I was supposed to be on the court, right? Like I was sitting and visualizing how
Wow.
things were to work. And I didn't know what it was called then, but for me, I was like, I just wanted to be prepared. Well,
Wow. Yeah, you were
now I
ahead of your
know.
time. Yeah.
Right. Now I
Cool.
know that that skill is really part of what we talk about when we want to say we want to create our reality, right? I was creating a reality that said, I want to be where I'm supposed to be when I'm supposed to be there in my own little world, right? And
Yes.
but you can do that, right? If we start talking a little bit about actual techniques of how do we create our own reality? What does that actually look like? I think I've been looking at this topic for 25 years in
Hmm.
in this world of how do we actually do it? Like I remember listening to Tony Robbins' Personal Power
Yes.
series of cassette tapes back
Yes.
in my
Yes.
20s. And I still remember this story in there where it was people who took his teachings, like I don't uh uh, his teaching from the perspective of we create our reality with our thoughts, and they sat and thought about winning the lottery. It was a husband and wife every day, and eventually they won the lottery. And I still remember that moment in my mind because I was like, wow, okay,
Yes.
so we really can attract the entire universe to align for us if we spend enough time. And I think that there's a difference between thinking and feeling, right? We can create the thoughts and the imagery in our head, but at least everything I've read, continuing with all the different channelings by Saint Germain and Ascended Master Jesus and Yeshua and all kinds of people, it's whether we can drop into the feeling of knowing that it's already
Exactly.
happened.
Exactly. Exactly. So one of the other things that I learned, speaking of visualizing and feeling and thinking, for me was, besides, like I said to you, I journal. I journal, and when you're in that feeling, that vibration of what it is that you want, and you're writing it down, and you're turning those words. The words are powerful, because
Mm.
your words bring up the feeling, which bring up the vibration. And vision boards, creating the first, I took a vision board class. I had never known what one was, and now I make them all the time. And the things that I have created off my vision board, when I look back and think, maybe they're not the biggest things, maybe I think that I try to, well, of course I do put things on that I want, like, that maybe might might take a while to get. But within 6 to 9 months, I try and create a vision board of things that will appear in maybe 6 to 9 months. Because I think if you try and start a little bit smaller to prove to yourself that you can create that, then it just builds up your confidence. Like I remember one of the things Abraham Hicks talking about, even Wayne Dyer, was creating a parking spot. So, you go into the mall at Christmas time, right? So you've obviously heard this. Going to the mall at Christmas time, parking is crazy. But when you go in there knowing I'm going to have a parking spot like right up front, and not even worrying about it and driving it. And don't you know, lo and behold, boop, somebody pulls out and you pull right in and you got that spot right up front. So starting small. So I don't know, for people who don't know what a vision, some people call them treasure maps or vision boards or picture boards, and they don't even have to be on an actual physical like poster board. You can nowadays even do it on your cell phone. You couldn't do it back then when I started doing it, but putting pictures or words or feelings or affirmations, things that you want to experience in your life that you can actually look at and put it somewhere. So mine's like right outside between my bedroom and my bathroom. I have to walk by that every day. And it's a reminder every day of the things that I want in my life. So I look at them and it automatically like shifts my vibration, my what's the word I'm looking for? I might wake up like, I don't want to go to work. I can't stand this job. I'm tired. And then by the time or sometimes I'll even have post-it notes on my mirror, in the bathroom. I walk by there and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to work, but I know this is temporary because I know that this is happening in the background. Because now I'm up, I'm looking at this, it's shifting my vibration. I'm remembering what it is that I'm really here for, what I really want. And by the time I like leave for work, my attitude has completely changed. Um,
That's
because I
beautiful because
remember,
it's the it's the remembrance. It's the
yeah,
reminder of how do I want to feel and what is the outcome that I want to create. It's I spent a lot of time, probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. I can't even, probably hundreds of books I read in the late 20s and my early 30s. And some of the ones that stand out the most to me were I worked with a group of people and we were doing a ton of personal development work. And there was a set of books that was introduced to me called Neveling. And I don't know if you've ever heard of Neville
no.
Goddard, but we
Oh,
always,
Neville. Yes.
Neville, yeah, it
Wayne
was
Dyer.
called
Yeah, Wayne
Neveling.
Dyer talks about. Okay. Okay.
Yep. And so it's all about you have to feel it, right? And so that concept of like you look at the vision board and it's a reminder, and then you
Yes.
find yourself feeling it. And it's the concept of
Yes.
focusing on not necessarily how you get there, but that you are
Correct.
already there, and then giving a lot of the processes. Like the fun for me is I just learned about a new technique that I hadn't heard about before. I follow the Mind Valley work, and he's been doing, did a class, or he's got a class out there around the Silva mind control method by Jose Silva that was written in the late 70s. And it's like all the techniques have a theme that runs through them, right? That's the fun for me, is like it's hearing how everything, how people have discovered on their own the incredible power that we live in, right? Like this is like when we talk about creating our reality, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. That was like back in the
I got
30s,
that.
right?
Yep.
So,
Yep.
but it's a
Yep.
classic. Like if you haven't read Think and Grow Rich, you should read Think and Grow Rich.
Yep.
Uh, because it's just this it's a classic in this world of talking about creating our own reality. And, it's just people that were like, oh, I found that I could, Jose Silva did it by training his kids to actually become an aspect of almost telepathy, right? Like answering questions before the question was asked, or knowing the answer before the question was asked, in this
Mm,
aspect of tapping into the universal consciousness that exists, and that we're all connected, and that we're arranging our reality by the choices that we make and the energy that we put out. So I love the aspect of pick a technique, pick any of them, but you have to practice it. Like I do the
yes.
parking spot thing every time.
Yes.
Like and
Me
it's
too.
just so, like I love that you remind me, because I'm like I do it automatically. I've done it for so
Yes.
long now. I go to park
Yes.
and I'm like, universe, bring me a parking spot, and
It's
there'll be a parking
amazing.
spot. And
It's amazing. And when you have
and
someone else in the car with you and they see it and they're
right.
like, what?
And I'm like, yeah, well, I just asked for a parking spot. They're like, you did what? And it's like, yeah, I'm asking for a parking spot. But I have gone back recently, actually, just in the past like 6 weeks or so, and I've reread some of the books that were most influential to me. And
Mhm.
I started playing with literally every night before I go to bed again. And I mean, I go to bed each night and I lay in gratitude for my day. But I hadn't been playing with this concept of, well, what do I want to create in my reality? And
Mm.
so I started doing some visualizations with little things again, and just really intending, you know, like, because I used to have a whole list of things like I did every morning and every night.
Mhm.
What am I
Mhm.
creating? Right.
Mhm.
So it's really fun to just come back, Pam, I think Pam G, I can't remember, the E Squared books, and
Oh, yes.
um,
Yes.
all all of these books. But one that I have recently reread is Dr. Meg Blackburn Lucy's Pyramids of Light, and I just have read this in the past like 5 days. And there's a part she has in here of creating the reality we want. And she says, each time we make a choice in our life, we change the path of our consciousness toward the results of that choice. In the moment we make a choice, we affect all that we are and all reality in the universe simultaneously. As we expand the energy of that choice, that energy is communicating And she talks about throughout the corridors of the null zones, which is the space in between atoms, and how all the particulates actually start to rearrange, creating a different set of harmonic relationships. Therefore, we're creating a new reality with every choice that we make. And it's like when you sit with that and you realize that even the words we choose to say
Mhm.
and the feel, are that's probably I'd love another whole conversation at some point of
I
just
was
the
just gonna say that's like,
choice and how, we want to talk about how emotions get created and all of that, but we can't cover all that today. But the final thing she says is we must believe unequivocally that reality will manifest. And so it's this play between we use our mind to create our beliefs and to make our choices, and that's the power of consciousness and free will on this planet. But then we have to focus on the outcome, and that's a lot of what Neville talks about and Think and Grow Rich, and the Silva and Tom Kenyon has a beautiful process that he channeled in the Great Human Potential around how to manifest something and to be in the feeling of it, focusing on the outcome, because that's the power. It's not, yeah, that I mean, that's like, oh, I just love this, right? Because it truly, like, we can create anything we want, and um, like the thing I'm hearing right now is, yeah, but I've tried it and it doesn't work,
mhm,
and it's
mhm,
yeah, it can feel like it doesn't work,
mhm,
but are you
mhm.
looking at what you're thinking
Oh gosh, I was just gonna say
doesn't
something about that.
work?
Of course.
Because the moment you say, I want to create, like I remember I used to have goals of, I want to manifest a job making $100,000 a year, working 40 hours a week. Because at the time I was working probably 70 hours a week and I was
Mhm,
really tired of
mhm.
70 hours a week. And so, but then the mind, because it is used to how we can't do things in this universe on the planet right now,
Exactly.
the mind comes up and is like, no, you can't. You've accepted that choice and you've put energy into the no, I can't. So, one of the most powerful things with any of these techniques is recognizing and digging into what are the doubts that you're putting out into the universe? What are the questions? Where do you not believe it? Because those are the gems of how do you heal? How do you transform a belief that maybe you took on? Um, I did a ton of work around money and abundance for a
Mhm.
period of my life. And, you know, we have so many cultural beliefs about money, or spiritual beliefs, or religious beliefs, or family beliefs. It's always other people's money, or we don't have money, or we shouldn't have money, or money creates evil, right? And so as soon as you say, I want to live in abundance, and you're like, yeah, but money's the root of all evil.
Oh my
Well,
gosh.
now you put both into the universe. You're not going to get anything.
Exactly.
Like it's like counteracting each other, right? You're like putting confusion into the universe. So, like, how have you dealt with those?
Oof, you
How do
just brought
you
up
know,
so much. You just
how
brought
do you,
up so much.
how have you dealt with trying to resolve the resistance, right? Like
Yeah.
oh, I create this idea of a future because I think a lot of people do play in this reality of, yeah, I want to create my reality. I get that. I
Mhm, mhm,
understand it. I've read all this.
mhm,
But then it doesn't work. And so then we
mhm,
stop, right? And I think
mhm.
it's how do you not stop?
That
How do you,
exactly.
yeah,
And I
what do
think
you
we
do
all
to keep
fall off the
going?
bandwagon. Sure.
Yeah.
I agree. So I have so many things I could say. um,
Well, just focus on one technique of how
I
you
know,
keep
I
yourself on
know.
the bandwagon.
Okay. Well, okay. Let me start. There's so many things that I want to say about what you just said. So the first thing I would say to people is that energy like attracts like, and where you're putting your focus is where you're expanding your energy. So too many people that I know, and this is really hard, and this is what I was talking about when I'm telling you not everybody is going to agree with what you're doing or saying or how you're getting it, and there are people that are going to be jealous because they don't understand the concept that they can do the same thing that you're doing. but I feel like too much attention is given to the negative things, the things that we don't want. Too much attention, and then I'm not going to stay on the subject, but I'm going to start here. Too much attention is given to the mass shootings, politics, the stock market. We give it so much energy by listening to it and fighting it, and even fighting it is giving it energy. We're not focusing on the good things, on the opposite of that. We're like, you know what I mean? So it's like, oh, we've had X amount of shootings this year so far. Okay, yeah, let's give that more power. So we don't want to like focus on that stuff. So I think a lot of people are so heavily focused on what they don't want to see. They don't want to see the price of eggs going up, but they keep talking about the damn price of eggs going up. You know what I mean? Like, like start saying, I can't believe how cheap eggs are. I can't believe how much the price of eggs are. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, that's the moment. That's the part that is, we create our experience of life by how we choose to look at things. And so you can, I mean, it's as simple as, is that glass half full or is it half empty? And
Right.
people feel like they don't have choice, but it really is. And it takes practice. If you've spent 30
Exactly.
years and you grew up in an environment with parents who has glass was always half full,
I did.
and a whole lot of us did, because guess what those parents grew up with? They grew up with parents living in a depression, and the glass
Exactly.
was only half full. So it's going to take practice. Sometimes it's just practice to say, no, I can look at the glass that's half full and I can
Yeah.
forgive. Listen to last week's episode. I can forgive my parents and the grandparents and the parents before them for all
Yes.
of those mental patterns that were handed down to me.
Right. My dad, literally 2 days ago. All right. So my dad's 80. He's going to be 81 soon. He is on Medicaid. It's a long story, but I found out that, my dad is entitled to Medicare. He doesn't make any money other than like Social Security, and he's a veteran, so he gets some benefits from the Veterans Association. But he's entitled to so many things like heating assistance, electric, free food, a card that will, help him pay for his food if he applies for Medicare. So I'm finding this out, and I say to him, Dad, um, how do you feel about, I know it's going to be paperwork. He gets very nervous and anxious, and I do too, because it always turns back on me because I'm the oldest. But I want him, he eats food out of a can. And I say to him, let me help you. If we can apply for this Medicare, then you can get a card that you'll have like so much. It'll be like a credit card. You go to the market and you use it, and you can buy like actual prepared food that you can just stick in the microwave, but it's better than like eating Campbell's soup every day or whatever, And he's like, I don't know, let me think about it. He's like, I feel like I don't want to take that away from, there's other people that might need it. I'm like, oh my God. Like I know so many people right now that are not working, that are fully capable of working, that are like younger than me, that are, getting this from the system, but he has that mindset of that there's not enough. If I take this, that means I'm taking it away from someone else, because he doesn't have that understanding that you're not taking it from someone else. The world is an abundant place. There's plenty for everyone. And I'm just going to not,
Right.
I grew up, like I said, religious. I grew up in a church, but I can't say that I am like religious. I am spiritual. I still have that background, which I'm grateful for. I wouldn't even know who, the archangels and the masters and Jesus and God and all these things were if I didn't go to church. But it says right in the Bible, there's so many of people really read the Bible.
Yeah.
There's, Hebrews says, now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see.
Yep.
God loves you to meet your needs. Matthew says, do not worry. What will we eat? What will we drink? What will we wear for clothing? For the Gentiles eagerly seek all these things, for your heavenly Father knows what you need, all these things. And God is able to make all grace abound to you, so that always having all sufficiency in everything, you may have an abundance for every good deed. I mean, it just goes on and on, right. Sheila,
And you can find that in every spiritual philosophy, yes. Right? There is aspects, yes. Every religion, every Bible of each religion, so to
Sure.
speak,
Sure.
has similar concepts of manifestation and reality and provided for, and being personally responsible for our reality. I mean, that's always the intent, and it gets skewed by all kinds of things. But if we come back to that,
Exactly.
it's our beliefs, right? Of, how do we get past those, right? How do we shift into our
Yeah.
creating our own reality? And like, I always find resistance is the biggest gift of life, is noticing where your resistance is, because as soon as you
Bingo.
go to create something and you realize there's resistance, if you don't deal with the resistance, creation's not going to be easy.
Right. No, so you can return now to what feels right with an adjustment of your thought process, an adjustment of your vibration, which I'll talk about, and changing your point of attraction, and then finally letting in all of that well-being that's just flowing to you always, as Abraham Hicks would say. So, like, for instance, getting addicted to feeling good, exercising in nature to release good endorphins, watching a beautiful sunrise or sunset, hug a puppy, pet a cat, like doing good things, create an attitude of gratitude where you keep a journal and add to it every day all of the blessings that you got today, all the blessings that you have now, and expressing the gratitude for what you have now just manifests the more desires that you're putting out there, that you're trying to bring into your existence. Trying a guided meditation and visualization of what your world would look like when you have manifested the prosperity that you desire. Creating visual images, like I talked about earlier, like on a vision board or whatever. Um,
I love
eating,
that, because yeah,
yeah,
what you're really listing are the ways that we heal, right? They're the
yes,
if we're not creating the reality that we desire, then we have something that needs to heal, and um eh, or something that needs to transform, whether it's a belief. I love that you mentioned beliefs or energy and all of these beautiful, amazing things that we can move, uh, shift our perspective, right? Make different choices.
exactly,
So, and it
exactly.
brings awareness to those pieces and processes of creation. So as you've started to mention those, it feels like we're probably at a fairly good stopping point.
There's
Although,
so much stuff.
I could
I
talk,
know,
I love
I
this
know,
topic. I
I
love
know.
creating reality. So, Kimberly, why don't you share with us, uh, how can people, you clearly have some expertise around this, if people wanted to work with you and learn more about manifesting, where would be a good place that they could start, to know more about working with you?
Sheila, thank you. I actually have an awesome website that someone created for me. And it is just kimberleyroles.com. And I am actually giving to all your listeners today, just a starting point, one of the courses that I created. Actually, it's not even so much a course as it is an activation, a meditation, something to listen to raise your vibration, to help you understand that you do create abundance, and you can do this. It's called Creating Total Abundance Clearing webinar. And if you go to Kimberley Roles, and that's Kimberly with an E, Kimberley, and then my last name Roles, Roles.com. Kimberleyroles.com/create. I'll be giving away this free webinar where we'll be doing some amazing energy healing and activations together. And we'll have all our helpers from our other side there with us, and, cut once and for all some cords that we didn't even know that we were carrying, which could be another whole episode. Clearing your energy. And, it'll hopefully, it will open up your life on how the universe steps in to give you everything that you've ever wanted. That's the law of attraction, and you'll always receive the exact frequency that you emit. Just remember that the universe is always saying yes to you. So head on over to kimberleyroles.com or Facebook. I usually have like those little 1-minute reels with some inspirational videos for you on my Facebook page of the same name, Kimberley Roles.
Awesome.
So, yay.
Thank you.
No, thank
Thank you
you.
for joining me today. It's truly, yeah, it just is so much fun to talk about creating our reality, because there's a whole lot of us here on the planet, and it's easy to get caught up in somebody else's story and somebody else's beliefs and frustrations or our own. And it truly is just stepping back into our power, our
I
inner
was just gonna
strength,
say that.
and
Yeah.
owning that we create our reality. So thank you again for being here.
Thank you, Sheila. Thank you all.
You've just listened to the Spiritual Geek Podcast. Thank you for joining us. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to share a comment and rating on your favorite podcast platform. It helps others to find the show and enjoy these incredible conversations. If you were inspired, consider sharing with friends and family. Love and light to each of you. May your day be filled with joy and wisdom as you consciously create your life.